Subscribe before the truth disappears. The rain had not stopped for 3 days. It drummed against the old windows of Aaron Walker's house like 1,000 soft knocks from a world that refused to let her rest. Outside, the streetlights flickered in hazy rhythm with the storm, bending the fog into pale ribbons that clung to everything. Inside, the air smelled of dust and old coffee, the scent of mourning that settles into homes when grief becomes a routine. Erin hadn't spoken to anyone since the funeral. She barely ate, barely slept, and never left the lights off for long. Darkness seemed to press against her walls with intent, and silence wasn't silence anymore. It was something that listened back. Her husband, Ryan, had been gone for 72 hours. The crash had been ruled accidental. His car had gone off the bridge on the east side of Portland, plunging into the cold river below. The divers had pulled his body out before sunrise. The world moved on. Erin didn't. The phone on her nightstand was the last thing connecting her to him, a small device that had become both a comfort and a curse. She had listened to his last voicemail so many times that she could recite every breath between the words. It was ordinary, almost painfully so, a voice frozen in the middle of living. That night, something changed. At 2:13 a.m., the phone lit up by itself. There was no ring, no vibration, only the sudden glow of the lock screen and a single notification. One new voicemail. The sender's name made her blood go cold. It was his, Ryan Walker. Her first instinct was denial, a trick of the carrier, a delayed delivery, a glitch in the system. Grief makes the impossible feel almost reasonable. She opened the voicemail. The timestamp read 2:13 a.m., just minutes earlier. Her breath came shallow, uneven, as the audio began to play. A wall of static filled the room, distant at first, then closer, layered with faint sounds of something natural, air, water, and somewhere within it, the rhythm of breathing. The sound carried an unnatural depth, as if it were recorded in an empty tunnel. Her chest tightened. The frequency shifted again, almost mimicking a heartbeat, then broke into fragments of distorted sound that almost formed words. There was no voice she could recognize clearly, only suggestion, only tone. But within the static, something human existed, something that shouldn't. The message ended abruptly, leaving behind an echo that didn't belong to the room. Erin sat motionless, staring at the reflection in the black mirror of the phone screen. Her fingers trembled as she replayed it again and again, trying to isolate what she thought she heard, a whisper, or maybe a warning. The timestamp never changed, yet every playback carried slight differences, like the recording was alive, rewriting itself each time. On the fourth listen, she noticed something new beneath the static, a faint dripping sound, steady and hollow, like water striking metal. She turned her head instinctively toward the window, expecting rain, but the sound wasn't external. It came from the recording itself. A sudden realization struck her. Ryan's car had been pulled from a river. His phone had never been recovered. The thought coiled in her mind until she felt the weight of it pressing against her lungs. She tried to rationalize. Perhaps the authorities had retrieved the SIM card. Perhaps a residual signal had been triggered. But logic crumbled under the sense of dread settling deep in her bones. She couldn't stay in the house any longer. The air felt charged, wrong, as though the storm outside had entered through her devices. She wrote down the numbers she thought she heard from the recording. 4, 2, 6, 9. They came between the static, spaced evenly, like coordinates or a code. The decision to leave wasn't conscious. It was as if something unseen had placed a hand on her back and guided her out the door. The drive through the sleeping city felt endless. Streetlights pulsed behind the rain like tired eyes. Every intersection she passed seemed deserted, yet she could sense movement just beyond her vision, shapes retreating into shadows as her headlights passed. The bridge appeared ahead, its skeletal frame vanishing into the mist. The last place he had been alive. Aaron parked and stepped into the rain. The air was sharp and metallic, carrying the scent of river mud and rust. Beneath the bridge, the current whispered softly, the kind of sound that fills silence with questions. She unlocked her phone. The voicemail was still open. Without touching the screen, it began to replay. The audio emerged again, static, breathing, then the inescapable rhythm of dripping water. The audio warped as though it were responding to the environment around her. The longer it played, the more the noises aligned with her surroundings, as if the message was bleeding into the present moment. Then the timer on the screen began to change. It continued past the original length of the message, seconds stacking into new minutes, yet no new sounds emerged, only the low hum of the storm. Aaron stared at the screen until something caught her eye, a faint reflection on the glass of her car window. Behind her, at the far end of the bridge, a shadow shifted in the fog. It wasn't moving naturally. It stood still for too long, then seemed to blur when she tried to focus. Her mind screamed for reason, a trick of the mist, a broken light, a grieving hallucination. But deep down, she knew the truth. The message hadn't come from nowhere. It had come from here. Her phone buzzed again, violently this time, before the screen went black. The rain fell harder, and the bridge seemed to tremble under her feet. Then the phone lit up once more. The voicemail was still playing, but now, instead of the original timestamp, the display showed a live call, voicemail recording in progress. There were no sounds now, only faint distortion, the kind that creeps beneath silence like something breathing in the walls. Her own reflection on the screen shimmered, distorted, as though something beneath the glass was moving. She turned toward the sound of the river, feeling every beat of her heart echo through the fog. Something was standing on the far side of the bridge, not close enough to see clearly, but close enough to know it was real. The figure never moved. Neither did she. Only the phone kept recording, its timer frozen at 2:16 a.m. The same minute, Ryan was pronounced dead. And though Aaron couldn't hear it yet, deep within the static, another sound had begun to form. A second voice, faint and cold, waiting for her to play it again.